Welcome to English Learning Academy. Here, we don't just learn English. We learn English through stories. And every story has something to teach us. Not only about language, but also about life. So, if you are learning English and sometimes feel that it is difficult, don't worry. You don't need to understand every word perfectly. Just listen, read along, learn a few new words, and keep going. Because every story you understand is one more step toward becoming confident in English. Today, we are going to listen to a powerful story inspired by Uncle Tom's Cabin, a famous novel by Harriet Beecher Stowe. It is a story about suffering, courage, faith, kindness, and the strength to remain a good person even when life becomes cruel. So, take a deep breath, listen carefully, and let's begin. There are moments in life when people hurt us so deeply that we begin to believe we have the right to become cruel. We think, they were cruel to me, so I can be cruel too. But what if the greatest victory is not hurting the people who hurt you? What if the greatest victory is refusing to become like them? This is the story of a man named Uncle Tom. A man who lost almost everything, but refused to lose his humanity. Uncle Tom was a poor enslaved man living in America. He did not own his home. He did not control his future. Even his family could be taken away from him. Yet Tom had something that no one could easily take away: his kindness, his faith, and his belief that every human being had value. He was hardworking, gentle, and honest. People trusted him because he always tried to do what was right. He loved his family deeply, and although his life was difficult, he tried to live with dignity. But one day, everything changed. His master fell into financial trouble, and Tom was sold. Not because he had done something wrong, not because he had failed anyone, but because another human being was being treated as property, and this meant that Tom could be separated from the people he loved. Imagine loving your family and knowing that someone else could simply decide to take them away. Imagine having almost no control over your own life. That was the painful reality of slavery. As Tom was taken away, another story was unfolding. A woman named Eliza discovered that her little son, Harry, was going to be sold. She knew what that meant. She might never see her child again. So Eliza made a desperate decision. She would run. She would risk everything to save her son. That night, carrying her child, she escaped into the darkness. Behind her was a world that wanted to separate her from her child. Ahead of her was an uncertain future. She did not know where she would sleep. She did not know who would help her. She only knew one thing. She had to save her son. At last, Eliza reached a freezing river. The water was dangerous. The ice was broken and unstable. But fear could not stop a mother who was fighting for her child's freedom. She stepped onto the ice. Then another piece, and another. Holding her child tightly, she crossed the freezing river. She was frightened. She was exhausted. But she kept moving, because sometimes love gives ordinary people extraordinary courage. Meanwhile, Tom's journey took him in another direction. He eventually came into the life of a kind and wealthy man named Augustine St. Clair. For a while, Tom experienced something he had rarely known: kindness. St. Clair treated him with respect. Tom became close to St. Clair's young daughter, Eva. Eva was a gentle child who saw goodness in people that others ignored. She cared deeply about Tom, and Tom loved her like a daughter. But Eva was very ill. As her health became weaker, she became more concerned about the people around her than about herself. She spoke about love. She spoke about forgiveness. And she reminded the adults around her that a person's value does not come from wealth, skin color, or social position. It comes from being human. But tragedy came. Eva died, and Tom's heart was broken. Yet even in his grief, he remembered what she had taught him. Love is not weakness. Sometimes love is the strongest thing a human being can carry. After Eva's death, Tom's life became difficult again. He was sold once more. This time, he came under the control of a cruel man named Simon Legree. Legree wanted one thing from Tom: obedience. He wanted to break his spirit. He wanted Tom to become hard, bitter, and afraid. But Tom refused. He suffered. He was treated cruelly. He was threatened. He was beaten. Yet he continued to hold on to his faith. And this is where Tom's greatest battle began. It was no longer simply a battle over his body. It was a battle over his soul. Legree could control where Tom went. He could control his work. He could threaten him. But there was one thing he could not completely control: the kind of person Tom chose to be. Tom could have allowed hatred to consume him. He could have decided that goodness was pointless. He could have become cruel because the world had been cruel to him. But he refused. He chose to remain compassionate. He chose to remain faithful. He chose not to surrender the goodness inside him. And that is perhaps the deepest lesson of his story. We often think strength means fighting back. Sometimes it does. But there is another kind of strength. The strength to remain kind when the world gives you reasons to hate. The strength to remain honest when dishonesty seems easier. The strength to forgive without pretending that the wrong never happened. And the strength to protect the goodness inside your heart when life is trying to destroy it. Tom's story reminds us that circumstances can control many things, but they do not have to control our character. There is another powerful lesson hidden inside this story. Never judge a person's worth by the position the world has given them. Tom had almost no social power. He had little control over his circumstances. But morally, he was stronger than many of the people who controlled him. And that teaches us something important. A person's true greatness is not measured by money, not by status, not by power, not by how many people obey them. It is measured by what they do when they have the opportunity to hurt someone weaker than themselves. Today, most of us are not facing the world Tom faced, but we all face smaller versions of the same question. Someone insults us. Someone betrays us. Someone misunderstands us. Someone treats us unfairly. And suddenly, we have a choice. Do we become bitter, or do we remain the person we want to be? Because sometimes, the person who hurts you is trying to take more than your peace. They are trying to change you. They are trying to make you angry like them, cruel like them, hopeless like them. Don't give them that power. You cannot always control what happens to you, but you can fight to control what happens inside you. Uncle Tom's Cabin is ultimately a story about slavery and the terrible injustice suffered by countless human beings. What will you become when life becomes cruel to you? Will you allow pain to turn your heart into stone? Or will you allow it to make you wiser, stronger, and more compassionate? Because anyone can be kind when life is kind to them. Or will you allow it to make you wiser, stronger, and more compassionate? Because anyone can be kind when life is kind to them. The real test of character comes when life is not kind, when you have every reason to hate and still choose humanity, when you have every reason to become cruel and still choose goodness. That is strength. That is courage. And perhaps that is the greatest freedom of all. People may take your possessions. They may take away your comfort. They may even try to control your circumstances. But do not easily give them your character. Do not let someone else's darkness become your darkness. Do not let hatred teach you how to hate. And never forget, the world does not need another cruel person. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is remain a good human being. And remember, if you are learning English, don't be afraid of difficult stories or difficult words. You don't have to understand everything on your first listen. Listen again. Read the story. Write down a few new words. Try to understand them from the context. And slowly, day by day, your English will become stronger. Learning English is not about being perfect. It is about continuing to learn. So keep listening, keep reading, keep learning. And most importantly, never give up on yourself. If this story helped you learn English and gave you a lesson for life, please like this video and subscribe to English Learning Academy for more beautiful stories, useful English, and lessons that can help you grow. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep believing in yourself. Thank you for watching.